My name is Alvin Stern. My age is 97.
And what do you remember about growing up during the Great Depression during the 1930s?
Oh, it was rough. My dad and an uncle were together in business, electrical business. And my dad was an electrical contractor. And when the Depression came, people didn't have money to pay him, so they had to go out of business. My dad had a lot of customers, but there's no money. And I lived there, 5042 Page in St. Louis, Missouri, till 1936. I moved from there. Our home was foreclosed. We had a realtor who was supposed to have been a friend of the family, but in turn he had sold bonds out on our mortgage on our home, this flat. Maybe I was 11, 12 years old, and they wanted to know why they didn't receive any interest payments on the bonds. Well, my folks didn't know anything about that, because this realtor had posted, sold bonds to the people that which they bought, and they wanted their interest. Well, my folks didn't have any money to pay interest on this home, so in 1936, the home was foreclosed on us, and so we moved we lived at a flat on Simple Avenue. From there, we moved, my dad business was picking up, and my dad was working more steady. And my folks purchased a home at 5707 Maple in St. Louis. And it was and it was close by not too far away from where we had rented this flat. So we had moved there, and we lived there I don't know how long. And then from there we moved, so when the war came on, the war started in 41, I believe. Japan bombed 41, and then my dad was working very heavily, steady. He worked in war plants. They had a big war plant over in St. Louis called the Small Arms.
Where did you go to school?
I went to Clark School in St. Louis. It was a public school, and it was about 8 or 9 blocks from my house. Now, we had no school buses in those days. You just walked, and we had no cafeteria at school. So I went home for lunch, and after lunch, I'd go back. We had an hour for lunch. So whether I lived a half a block from the school or the distance where I lived at was on the perimeters, the outer perimeters of my school district. So we'd go home for lunch and then come right back for school. And I remember how my mother would take care of us. If it was raining, she would come with an umbrella for us so we wouldn't get wet going home. So my mother was very conscious of her children. I had a brother and a sister, and I was the youngest one of the family. And when finished in Clark School, we went from kindergarten to 8th grade. And then across the street from us was the high school. So when you finished grade school, you received your diploma, and then you would cross the street was the high school. And so I went to Soldan High School for 4 years. In 1942, I completed my high school. And I was a member of the law club. I joined that, and I was president of the law club. And we had a baseball team there. And on the baseball team, I was forgot what I didn't play. I was like the I forgot what the title was for me. Our colors in the high school was gold and brown. I did receive a letter, and I received a sweater and an S for Soldan. And then when I finished high school, the war had started in 1941 when Japan had bombed Pearl Harbor, and I finished high school then. And I was out a few months, and they were in 1942 is when I entered service.